Welcome everyone to the Accountability in Focus webinar. My name is Rocio Moreno, and today we would like to talk to you about partnerships. When an organization becomes a member of Accountable Now, they're committing to advancing and reporting against our 12 commitments. Working in mutual and equal partnerships with other civil society organizations is recognized as something that is strategic because it helps organizations obtain better results. Partnerships can take different forms, and these can be carried out with local organizations or even with other fellow international civil society organizations. Collaboration and coordination with other organizations can help an organization adopt a more holistic approach, identify gaps where actions can be improved, and prevent duplication of efforts in achieving collective results. But our commitment not only inquires on the existence of partnerships, that's not really the important thing that we want to discuss today. It also encourages our members to think more deeply about the foundations and operations of their partnerships. And to be able to think about these things, we ask organizations to think about, are they working towards similar goals? Is the partnership based on clear and fair roles and responsibilities? Is it based on principles of transparency and accountability? Are decisions made collectively? So if you look at these questions, they're helpful to assess the type of engagement that organizations have between themselves and determine if the partnership is grounded on values of mutual accountability. Mutual accountability is key to avoiding duplicating efforts to ensure more effectiveness. It grounds the partnership on fair and transparent rules to help avoid unnecessary competition, and it also contributes to building trust between both organizations. When reviewing how our members engage with partners and identifying good practices, we came across Child Fund New Zealand's roadmap. Child Fund New Zealand establishes sustainable partnerships with local organizations and also with the communities they work in. But I don't want to tell you what they want to do. Instead, I would like to introduce you to Cornelda Clegg, who is Director of Programs for Child Fund New Zealand, and she's going to explain a little bit more about the work that they're doing at the local level.
So thanks so much for the opportunity to talk about Child Fund New Zealand's approach to partnerships. And as mentioned, our approach to partnerships is really through our roadmap approach. We call this road mapping because it really is a process. So we support communities to develop a roadmap document, then that takes them on a roadmap journey. So today I'd just like to share with you the key aspects of our road mapping process, and throughout this discussion, I'll be also talking about our road mapping guidebook. So I've been very fortunate to work with Child Fund New Zealand for about 4 years, and so in that time I have worked a lot on the roadmaps and the road mapping process with our partners and help them to develop their roadmaps, but also because we received a lot of interest from New Zealand organisations, but also international organisations about our approach, we have developed a road mapping guidebook. So throughout this discussion, I will refer to the guidebook from time to time. And if anyone's interested, we do have information on our website, and we also have the roadmap documents to refer to on the Child Fund New Zealand website. So yes, so as I mentioned, I'd just like to talk about the key aspects of our road mapping approach and why it really is our preferred approach to partnership. We are currently undertaking road mapping with 4 of our long-term partners, and we really see it as a way of a clear way to structure our partnership. We also really believe that road mapping facilitates quality partnerships, and it helps us to understand the unique context that our communities work in. And so then we can really understand the challenges that they face, the root causes of their challenges, but also the solutions that they've identified and where we fit into those solutions. A key part of our roadmap process as well is the plan for our eventual exit. So this is the point at which Child Fund New Zealand starts to move away or step back And in our roadmap process, we call it graduation, because it is the point at which the partner has determined that they are self-reliant. So for many of our partners, the roadmap plan is 10 years. And the point at which they graduate is when they consider that they are self-reliant. So they determine the objectives that they need to do to achieve in order to reach that point of self-reliance or graduation. And we define self-reliance as the economic and social ability of a community to meet their own needs in a sustainable way and with dignity. And by no means is that the end of their journey at graduation. They will then continue on their development journey. It's just that Child Fund New Zealand steps back. Also, another key aspect is that we work in partnership to track the progress of the roadmaps. And so we are looking at ways that we measure and assess how the interventions are helping our partners to support children to thrive. For Child Fund New Zealand, supporting children to thrive is our mission. And thriving is a holistic understanding of what children need to support their basic needs. And so that's really about access to education, about being protected, and about being healthy, but also access to water and sanitation, and having a sense of well-being. So it's a complete picture. Also, it's important in our partnership and on our road mapping journey that we're supporting our communities to become stronger through a partnership. So throughout the road mapping process, there are opportunities for capability, strengthening, and institutional strengthening. So these are all points that I will talk through today. Okay, so the road mapping process. So as mentioned, this started up about 4 years ago. And we work with 4 long-term partners on the road mapping process, and they were instrumental in designing the road mapping process and designing their roadmaps. So we work with local partners in Batiklo, Sri Lanka, that's AU Lanka. We work with Child Fund Kalbang in Vietnam, Imali Dedicated Children's Agency in Kenya, and Luangwa Child Development Agency in Zambia. So the roadmaps were developed in about 2015 to 2016, and it was our partners that identified the goals. And those really, the aim of the roadmap is to support the sustainability of the work that they've been doing, and also that they will perform through the road mapping process. Our partners were also the ones who identified the need and the goal of self-reliance. So they said, we want to work towards this point so that we are strong and we will be leading our journey of change. Also, a key point about the roadmaps is that they support the localisation agenda. And Child Fund very much is committed to localisation, where we see it's about supporting the communities to be the drivers of change and putting the power into their organisations and into their communities to really to lead those processes. And we believe that the road mapping process really structures that and supports that. Another key aspect of the road mapping process is that it really ensures that we're not creating any dependencies to long-term aid or development assistance. So, as I mentioned, so the process of road mapping includes creating a road mapping or a roadmap document. So in my 4 years at Child Fund New Zealand, I've really seen how the communities and our partners have embraced their roadmap document. In Sri Lanka, they call their document the mother document, and it's something that they can go to and to understand and see the goals that they have designed and created together. And in Luangwa, in Zambia, the communities have really embraced this document, and they are tracking their progress, and they have their objectives and their plans set out, and they can always be seeing where they want to go and what they want to do next. So key to the roadmap is that it provides this clear goal, but it also acts as a strategic plan for the life of the roadmap document. So for many of our partners, that's 10 years, and so they know where they're going over that 10 years. It also serves as a monitoring tool in that the partners and the communities and ourselves can see what the plans were set out and where they're going and what has achieved. So also the road mapping document acts as a device for fundraising. So our partners can take these documents and their plans and their goals, and they can work with local, national or regional institutions to bring them in to their goals. So it's just not about the partnership with Child Fund New Zealand, but it's about creating partnerships within their communities and within their own wider environment. A key point of our road mapping document, though, is as well that Child Fund New Zealand can't fund everything. So it is an opportunity to bring in those stakeholders and see how they can support the communities to achieve the goals that they've identified and set out for their future. So we really believe, that roadmaps facilitate quality partnerships, and it is our preferred approach. And because we know that with road mapping, the communities are setting out the plans, they are determining their goals and the activities that go into achieving those goals. And so it's very much led by our partners in the communities. We also know through road mapping and through the process that is we've determined, which is set out in our road mapping guidebook, is that from the very beginning, the stakeholders and the community stakeholders on the ground, such as the government ministries or departments, community groups, universities, parents groups, women's groups, and children as well, are brought in from the very beginning to inform the design and work with the partners and work with us to help create this road mapping plan. Another key part of it is that it facilitates a way and structures a way for us to support our partners to strengthen and build their capabilities towards their goal of self-reliance. Another key point is that it acts as a structured way in which we can co-invest with the community. So we are partners in this journey rather than it just being one-sided. So we can see where we fit in along with the stakeholders, the communities and the partners in order to help deliver the goals that are set out in the roadmap. Finally, we believe this is a great way to partnership because we can see that our partners are becoming stronger through this process. We can see that their organisations, but as well as their communities and the stakeholders are becoming more united. And as a result, they are moving towards that goal of self-reliance that they've identified. So a key point in the process of road mapping that is in our road mapping guidebook is that it sets out how our relationship will work essentially, and it facilitates our partnership through this process. So in step 5 and 6 of our guidebook, it talks about how annual plans can be drawn from their road mapping document or the strategic plan, as well as budgets. Partners can then send those to us on an annual basis, of which we can assess and provide feedback and really identify ways we can work together over the year. Also, it is through this we can start to negotiate funding. And we know, and what is really wonderful is we know that these plans have come from the community, they've come from the stakeholders, and we can work out how we can support and how everyone can come to the table to help deliver the goals that the partners have developed. So as mentioned as well, tracking the roadmap progress is really a big part of our process. And this is something that is also very much part of the partnership because we want to understand that the work that we are doing together is making an impact and what that impact is. So the idea is that every 3 years we will do an in-depth evaluation into how the roadmap is tracking but also how it's helping children to thrive and how our work together is helping children to thrive. So our partners identified that at 3 years, it makes sense to do that in-depth evaluation to be able to understand that the change that is happening through the road mapping processes and as well as the interventions that have been identified and delivered. We also look at the outputs that have, of the projects that have been implemented through the roadmap, such as, you know, how many children have been able to access school, or how many schools have been built, or health centres. And so we can start to build a picture of the impact that the roadmap and the interventions through the roadmap are making. So, as you've mentioned, roadmaps, we believe roadmaps are instrumental in fostering strong partnerships, but we also believe strong partnerships, you know, and being a good partner is a key ingredient through the process. So it's for this reason that throughout the entire process of developing a roadmap and going through the roadmap journey is that we ensure that all the voices are heard throughout the process. So this involves for us ensuring that all voices are equal and all voices are heard. So we want to make sure that women, children, people with disabilities or ethnic minorities are all at the table and all can contribute to our plan and can share and collaborate through this process. Also, it's very important that our organisations are partners. And so that means we have laid relationships between between our organisation, Child Fund New Zealand, as well as the partner organisation. So that means from the CEO to the officer level, there is this relationship so that there's a flow of information and feedback. It's not just one person at Child Fund New Zealand talking to one person at the partner organisation. And that really builds accountability and trust. So also a key point is that we do invite feedback, and we do allow and create avenues for anonymous feedback. And we do that through a partner survey that's delivered every year. And that is actually sent out and organised by someone outside of our organisation. And we also have a whistleblowing or complaints line. So we can really ensure that if there's any concerns or anything that doesn't sit right with our partners, they can really give us the feedback without, you know, the fear of the, reprisals or anything like that. So I'd just like to also explain about how through developing roadmaps and going through the road mapping process with our partners helps us to really understand the unique context that our partners live in. And so it helps us to really understand our partners and how we fit into their development journey. So as I mentioned in the road mapping guidebook, we have this right at the front as step 2 is to understanding the context. And it's really important for us with our partners to understand who the stakeholders are, what their levels of participation are, the country priorities, how our goals and the initiatives that are being proposed fit in with the SDGs, and how this can all shape and inform our work together. Also, communication is vital throughout the road mapping process. And so we are also in regular communication with our partners through Skype, but we also perform visits to the communities where we can check in and triangulate our understanding of the context. But also we can sit down and we can be at the table and hear the voices and really create that meaningful relationship. It's important to note though that Child Fund operates within a network of child funds, so we're part of an alliance. And so when we work with our local partners, we're also working with a Child Fund country office who is on the ground, who supports our relationship as well. And so that adds an extra layer of support, but also understanding between, you know, who Child Fund is and the local partner. And so we can build that trust and build that strength in our relationships. So as mentioned earlier on, capability mapping and strengthening the organisations that we work with is really important. And so we do have that as a step in our road mapping guidebook. So throughout the road mapping process, local partners are supported to assess their capacity and gaps in their capacity, and then we can look at ways that we can strengthen them as well as their organisation. We have worked with partners on strengthening their organisations, and some of the things that have come out have been about training their board in, could be child protection, but also strengthening their governance skills, as well as looking at how they can change their name to fit in with their environment and to stand out, as well as how they can increase their funding activities. So, and that's something that we support and also measure throughout the process so that our local partners can continually strengthen towards that goal of self-reliance. So, this brings me to the end of my discussion about the Child Fund New Zealand's road mapping process and our preferred approach to partnerships. So I'd just like to say for 3 of our local partners, they have another 6 years to go through the road mapping process. And it's something, we can see that the communities are embracing, we're embracing, and we are getting stronger together. So we really look forward to continuing to work on that goal with our partners and towards self-reliance. But also, we are looking forward to extending our partnership approach to our Pacific partners. Our Pacific partners are somewhat newer, so we don't have that long-term history. But so we are still forming the relationships with these partners in the Pacific, and we're building trust, because we understand that before entering into such an in-depth and a process and sort of a long-term process of road mapping, we really need to understand each other, understand the opportunities and the challenges, and understand each other's hopes for the future. So we do intend to adapt our road mapping process for the context of the Pacific in order to support their sustainability and their empowerment, and also their self-reliance. So I'd just like to say thank you for allowing me to share this with you today. And yes, so I look forward to any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Quinelda.
Thank you, Quinelda.
Thanks.
Nice.
You just answered two of the questions I was gonna ask you.
Oh,
And
sorry.
No, that's perfect, because I wanted to know so the first one was about adapting the roadmap, if there were any particularities depending on the country in which you were working with. And then the other one had to do with, yes, how you identified your partners and how you embarked in the journey, because you said that these were long-standing partners from Child Fund New Zealand, and so I was very interested to learn a little bit more about that. But then so now that you're trying to expand to the Pacific, is there anything that you're doing in particular to build the relationship, to understand better the local partner? Are you, for example, piloting any type of project, or how does that work?
So, yeah, so we've been working, we have an office in Kiribati actually, and we have done in-depth context analysis as well as gender analysis to really to have that deep dive into the context. And we're thinking about, so for our partners in Zambia and Kenya and Sri Lanka, they're geographical communities. And so we have that holistic view of supporting, a range of issues. But in Kiribati, we also have a focus on youth. And so it doesn't necessarily focus on one geographical community. So key to the road mapping process, though, is that it is flexible, and that's something that we put in the guidebook. And so by no means is it supposed to be prescriptive. So we are really looking at, okay, so if we are to work with these communities, does it have to be geographical? And what's it going to look like for youth in Kiribati? And so that's something we're exploring, and we're exploring with our partners there who are definitely interested in undertaking the process. We just want to make sure, I guess, we have that foundation and that history of delivering projects together successfully and equitably, so that before we undertake this sort of in-depth partnership, that we have some understanding of, a bit more deeper understanding of how we work together, and so we're not sort of signing them up for something they're not quite ready for.
No, that makes complete sense. And in the meantime, is there anything on strengthening organizational capacities, like you mentioned? Is anything on those lines happening right now?
Yes, so we're actually at the moment, things I have to say have been put on pause in many of our communities because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but we are developing a tool that, you know, is for our communities to use, whereby they can assess and plot out their strengths and weaknesses, and then we can use that tool on an annual basis to really measure that and see how that's changing and what things that we can address from year to year.
That's amazing. And can I ask one more?
Certainly.
You mentioned that funding conversations are held between the partners and also with the communities, which I can imagine is sometimes difficult. Are there any challenges in holding these types of conversations? How do you mitigate a little bit, you know, the tension that might come from the difficult conversation?
So having the history with these communities, community contribution has always been a major part of the project. And actually what we're seeing now is, and especially in Luangwa, I know, for instance, they have these priority projects that they're working towards, and they want to get them moving. One, for instance, is a health centre that is badly run down. And they're saying, okay, well, we can start to bring things to the table. We can bring our labour, we can bring some local materials to start these projects. And then really we can start the work, and then with the idea of bringing us in when it's possible. So actually I feel like it facilitates those discussions about, okay, what can they bring to the table and what we can bring to the table. So I feel there's never any uneasiness. And actually there's a lot of pride in the community contributions, which we see across our road mapping process.
I guess it also contributes to foster ownership, no? Also from the community side.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you. And last one, have any communities graduated so far?
No, so Kaubang, it will be graduating in 2023. So I have been to Vietnam, and I went there last year to have this discussion. And what is most important is that our partners at Child Fund Vietnam over there, as well as the communities and the community leaders, is they are aware that this is happening. There is no surprises here, and they're working towards it. And while they say that they're sad that Child Fund will be leaving, they're very happy for the support and to have engaged for this time. And they know that we'll be going to another community to deliver this kind of support.
That's amazing. Thank you. This has been really, since we learned about it, we always thought it was such an interesting approach. But what I really like is that it's not only about working with local organizations, it also involves the community and really establishing this more horizontal, relationships and co-creation. And yeah, really nicely, speaks very nicely to what we call dynamic accountability. Thank you so much, Cornelia. It was really nice hearing the experience.
Thank you so much.